The longer I've lived here, the more opportunity I have seen, not just in the oil and gas space, but in education, but in healthcare. I've seen numerous companies be a part of strategic partnerships, for example, in terms of giving back to the community and uplifting the quality of life. We hear so much about oil and gas uplifting the quality of life. Why can't it be in the place where we produce the most oil and gas?
Guys, thank you so much for being here, Jay and Yoshi, and just being with us on the podcast. It's a new podcast for us, so we are excited. We're only a few weeks in, and so in doing some recording, and it's called Good Work West Texas. And when Leslie and I were thinking about who to have on the show, we felt like it was really important for us to think about community minded people and not just from the nonprofit world. The idea of our podcast is really to inform the community, but also about the different organizations, but also to inspire the community to get started in some way that maybe they don't know about. Maybe they've sat on the sidelines, and we want to inspire people to get involved. It's really our belief that so many good things are happening in our region. And so we want to be able to share those things and share the story and the people behind it. And so thank you for saying yes. I know that a lot of people are scared with cameras, and I'm number one, but it's just we're just having a conversation. And so we're excited about you guys being here and sharing it with us. But I want to just take the time to introduce you guys both. So Yoshi, would you mind just getting us started a little bit about you and your time in Midland, how you came here, what was that story behind you getting here and being here?
Well, Cindy, first off, thank you so much for the time and for the opportunity to speak at this podcast. I'll start backwards because usually I like starting backwards with a little bit of my story. Been here in Midland for about 8 years. I'm a petroleum engineer that's worked for a number of companies in Midland, and I've worn many hats. But along with my day job, I do a lot of other things, such as I'm a YouTuber promoting oil and gas education, professional development, career readiness. I'm also a podcast myself on a different niche in terms of petroleum engineering, oil and gas education, career readiness as well. I coach a local gym here. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I can talk on and on about my different hobbies. How I got to Midland is a similar story of a lot of petroleum engineers that come to Midland. It's work. Either you are forced to come here by your company, or you were born and raised here and you've happened to find a lot of opportunities here. I'm a little bit of a unique case in that I chose to come here. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering, and when I got an offer from one of the companies I was interning for, I purposely chose Midland, Texas, because I knew that's where all the work was.
Mm.
I knew that's where you'd get all the experience. And I've heard so much about Midland, about opportunity, making the most of what you have, and how hardworking the people are over there with respect to oil and gas and with respect to people that have been living in the community.
Mm.
So I chose to live here. And I chose to live here again when I got laid off in 2016 when I moved to Houston to live with my parents. When 2018 came around and oil prices came back up, I chose to move out here again working for another company. So I'm very passionate about Midland and giving back. As far as how I've been giving back, professional societies, and then I started asking myself the question, well, how do I truly make an impact? How do I engage with the community? So then I started looking at different nonprofit organizations. And the fun fact is that Permian Basin has the most number of nonprofits per capita or per square mile. You can look at that statistic up anywhere, but it's true. There's so many opportunities to give back. And with all of that being said, how I was actually raised in Houston, and I moved around a lot throughout my with my family. But Houston is where we've set our roots, and I went to school in Austin, and I continued my education while working. And to work even more backwards, I've lived in several other states, as I mentioned too. I've lived around different places. I've lived in Overland Park, Kansas. I've lived in a couple cities in New Jersey, and I was born in India. And I came to the United States when I was 6 months old. But as far as community and giving back, there have been many examples in my life about positive examples of the community, and we can go more into that
Yeah.
in our conversation. But that's a little bit about myself, that I'm a woman in STEM from I'm a product of women in STEM initiatives, and
Yeah.
I'm an engineer, and I've always had the desire to give back.
I love that. So thank you for coming back. I think that sometimes the narrative about Midland can be negative. That's one of the reasons we've done the podcast is we believe that this region is very generous. It's very when I think about I tell people this a lot that I think it's one of the most hardworking communities there is. I've lived in several different places, and when you think about the work that's done day in, day out, over and over, night after night. It's crazy to think about that people in not just the oil and gas sector, but what services, even us having restaurants and all those kinds of things. It's a sacrifice for many to be here. But when when they fall in love with it, they typically wanna come back. So, I've heard several times people come kicking and screaming, and then when they leave, they're crying, and they're like, "I wanna go back." So, thanks for just sharing that and your story of how you got here and the importance of just, being a woman in our community that, is an engineer. You've, grown yourself, and have opportunity. So I love that. So, Jay, what about you? How did you come to Midland? You weren't born here, were you?
I was not, and
Okay.
unlike Yoshi, I appreciate that story, and thank you for having me on as well. I did not choose to come to Midland.
Okay.
Um, been here since '07.
Okay.
Family business is what brought me out here. Back then, we have since sold that family business. Um, but my wife is from the great city of Odessa, and she told me when we got married 32 years ago that she would never move back. And I knew that was a death sentence for
Yeah.
us that we
Yeah.
would move here. And I fought it for probably 2 years of coming out here. My father-in-law was like, I want to retire. I want to have my grandkids here. I want to have my family here. And so at the time, I was teaching on faculty at Collin County Community College in Frisco and in the Plano area. I have a background in ministry. I've had 20 plus years of doing mission work across the state, across the country, and in the UK. And so my father-in-law was like, "You need to come out here and help us with this family business." And I said, "When hell freezes over, I will move to Midland,
Love it.
Odessa." And sure enough, after fighting it for a couple of years, there was a big freeze back in 2006. And so I called and I said, "It looks like that it's cold and looks like hell has froze over. And so I'll move." And so we packed everything up and we left in May of '07 and came out here, and I learned what it meant to work in the oil and gas industry. I had no background in it. I grew up on a farm, only child, had no idea what valves and seats and plungers and fracking and all that was. But I threw myself into it. I learned it because the deal was, and there's always a deal with your family, if you can come and help us get the organization, the business to a certain point where we can sell it, we will fund something else that you want to do that's maybe more in your wheelhouse, right? And so because of that, it led me to start an organization where we drilled new wells, did repair work, rehab work, and trained locals in a couple of places in the Central African Republic, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so that's really, I think, why I moved here, was to learn what
Mhm.
this industry is all about, but also to find that next calling. And then that led me to serve locally in some churches here, and then kind of help some different companies and organizations here. And it's led me to where I am today.
Mm, it's awesome. So what do you think in both of you? Because you've talked about Midland in general. What do you think just the qualities of Midland? What is it that you think makes us special? Or Odessa? the region. I mean, there's all kinds of fights, Midland and Odessa back and forth, but
Mm.
I kind of contend that it's a great region in general. And so what is it that makes you want to give back? What is it that you're like, this is the place to be?
It was definitely an evolution for me. The longer I've lived here, the more opportunity I have seen, not just in the oil and gas space, but in education, but in healthcare. I've seen numerous companies be a part of strategic partnerships, for example, in terms of giving back to the community and uplifting the quality of life. We hear so much about oil and gas uplifting the quality of life. Why can't it be in the place where we produce the most oil and gas?
Mm.
And Midland is also a transient population. We have to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
Many people commute to Midland for the week, and or during the weekends they go back to their big cities because not a lot of people are willing to make the commitment to live in Midland due to Midland having a bad rap. But what I've seen is opportunity. I had my husband ask the question, do we really want to limit ourselves into investing into in do we really want to limit ourselves into investing into opportunities that a lot of people are taking advantage of, but only living there for a couple of years? Or do we want to think about the long game and find a potential in improving the current infrastructure, the current systems that Midland has already? Why can't we use our talent to improve Midland in the long term? So I see a lot of potential and I see a lot of opportunity.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, I mean, what makes this happen is the people. Everyone is very community oriented, relationship oriented. And I had an executive come into my office a few years ago when I was a young engineer telling me that I had no EQ. And that was eye-opening to me. But what he really meant in his direct feedback is that I really needed to focus on building relationships, having really learn about people's stories. And it's not always about the 9 to 5 job in the business. It's really about understanding people's stories and tapping into there's three types of argumentation: the logic, the ethics, and then the emotion. It's tapping into all three of those things
Mhm.
for the person.
Right.
And I think Midland has a lot of potential for that.
I
I
love
would
that.
tend to agree with that. Coming out here, you had mentioned, some people kicking and screaming and then they leave crying. I haven't done the leaving yet, so I
Okay.
don't know if I will cry or not, but I did the kicking and screaming part. But, on a podcast that I had done previously a year ago, I had several guests on, and I would ask the question that I hear quite a bit is, if you're bringing in a new executive, you're bringing in a new leader, a family that's going to move here, fly them in at night. I hear that quite a bit. And that's always bothered me some because I was like, why would you not be proud of your city?
Mhm.
Right. I'm not a Midlander. I would consider myself more of a Midlander now than I would have 5 years ago or when I moved here. But I think you've got to embrace who you are, and I think Midland does have a lot of great opportunities. As Yoshi said, I think it is a spectacular place to raise your family. I get this asked a lot. What I do doesn't necessarily have to be done in Midland now that my kids are all grown and they've left the nest, so to speak. Why would I want to stay? Well, I love the city, I love the area. I'm also one of the minority owners for the Odessa Jackalopes hockey. And one of the things that we fight about a lot is people in Odessa will drive to Midland to shop and participate in activities, but not many will leave from Midland to go the other way. And so we've had to kind of, how do you bridge that gap? And I think the way to do that is through volunteering and getting involved in your community. I think as a citizen of Midland, it's a responsibility, I think, for every citizen, every person who plugs in, goes to the grocery store, goes to church, goes to work, pays their taxes, all of that. I think it's a responsibility that we all have to plug in where we live. And I think Midland has that. Yoshi mentioned it, so many nonprofits. Whatever your heart is leaning toward,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You should find that place to serve. And if there's not a nonprofit that serves in that, then let's figure out how we can start one.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to know on the business side of it. It's my understanding that you both have worked in businesses that have allowed you the space, if you will, to be able to serve in the community. Like it's maybe been a perk of the job, if you will, to have X amount of hours that you're able to go and to serve. Do you feel like that has made a difference in some way, in your involvement in the community? Do you think that is something that maybe all employers should consider doing for their employees to be
Mm,
able to have that little bit of, that little bit of bandwidth in your week or your month to be able to give back? Because just thinking as a mom, a wife, an employee, there's so much of my day is consumed with being all of those things, and sometimes it does come down to, am I having to choose between being present for my kids, being at their game, being at something for them versus volunteering in a space? So I'm just curious,
mm,
do you feel like that's been a benefit of having a little more bandwidth to be able to have some flexibility and freedom to
mm.
volunteer?
That's a great question.
That's a great
Yeah.
question. As Jay mentioned, I do think there is a benefit. I will say that my willingness to give back or my passion or calling to give back wasn't due to a business, perhaps. But I will say that when a business gives that nod, saying that getting involved in the community, being present, giving back to people that live in the community, that serve in the community, that invest in the community. I think that's very reassuring. I think that improves the relationships that that companies have with the people that are working for these particular companies, as well as the future generation, like recruiting future talent. I mean, there are several companies that want to give back to certain causes, and then there are companies that make strategic partnerships with universities, for example, in order to recruit the future talent. Because you'll see a kid driving to school every day looking at a logo or looking at a company, and they'll ask mom and dad, why are they here? What is that? And when they're members of the company investing in the community, mentoring, helping out with robotics projects, talking about the industry that they work in inspires that future generation.
Mm,
So I think it's an investment for the long game for that particular company.
mm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Mm, I love that.
I think for me, it's probably it's a two-part
Mhm.
answer to be really, Leslie. I think, and when people ask me, why are you so involved? Everywhere I go, I see you. You're at every event, you're supporting every, organization and brand and stuff. And my answer is, and I always have to preface this because I don't want it to sound boastful, but it's just who I am,
Mhm.
right? It's my character, it's my nature to give. I've been like that since I was young. My parents instilled that in me. One of my favorite Bible stories is when, Jesus is with his disciples and they're tired and they're hungry and these people are just there and they don't have a place to stay, they don't have a place to eat. And so the disciples look at Jesus and say, "Are you going to help them?" And he says, "You give them something to eat." So it's a command to do that. But for me, it doesn't matter really where I'm working, I'm going to be serving. But on the flip side of that coin, to have a business that finds out why they want to serve is gives me that excitement that I want to jump in on that why. And I think that's one of the biggest downfalls to businesses in the Permian Basin is because they get so one track lane. We've got to do this, which is important, that they don't look outside of that to find where they can serve. And so that's why I feel like my gifting is, you use the word calling. I think that I would use that same word. It's a calling of me to help mentor and coach people who maybe they do want to serve, but they just don't know where to start. They don't know where to go, what to do. And my encouragement would be for any business, find your why, right? Because what I've understood in the time that I've been here since '07 there's some downturns, there's some ups, there's some downs. So if you don't have that why, when it gets hard, you'll quit and you'll stop serving and you'll stop giving because you don't know why you're doing it in the first place. So I think for me, it's who I am. I can't teach that. I can just model that, but I can also take principles of what it means to give, what it means to serve, and the joy that you get from doing that, and then help coach and train businesses, whether they're small, medium, large, whatever. What's the best way to get involved? Because everybody, loves to do the sexy times,
Mhm.
right? November, December,
Yeah.
we got all volunteer then. But nonprofits need our help in February. They need our help in the summer,
Mhm.
and those don't seem to get as much attention
Mhm.
as those other months.
And I think in a community where we have so many different nonprofits, I think it's important. Something that Leslie and I really try to talk to people about is it's really this idea of abundance. And
Mm.
I don't want to say this on every single podcast, but it just comes up that sometimes we come with this scarcity mindset of
Yeah.
there's not enough dollars, there's not enough volunteers, and I'm like, no, we really, when we seek out what's important to us, what's that story behind your story that's brought you to a place where you're like, I really care about this. Maybe it was a broken family, maybe it was a dad that had an addiction. I mean, everybody's got a story. And so in a place that they want to help. They just may not know where to do it. And so, even with Leslie and I at a very individual level, we want people to think of just the time that's investment. It's an investment. And we do know that you have to rearrange schedules. And we do know that there are certain things that you've maybe got to do a background check and you've got to, as a volunteer, but to be able to give back. Um, that 1 hour, I think we tell ourselves that 1 hour isn't enough, or uh, 1 day a month isn't enough. I mean, whatever that looks like. But also, we want to just bring out the awareness of there's people sitting next to you at your office. There's people on your street. There's an opportunity for you to serve and to get to know somebody right where you are. And so, and if we all are willing to do that, then that leads to that abundance. It's when we get very internal, and are not thinking about each other. But I hope that just thank you for being the models of that, because you can't necessarily teach that, but you can definitely model and bring other people along and inspire them to do something. And so thank you for doing that, just not only personally but also with businesses that you've been a part of, and different communities that you're involved with.
I was going to add, Yoshi and I have known each other for about a month now,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Only a
And we
month.
have,
Okay.
yeah, but we've been serving forever. We
Mhm.
just have never, we've heard about each other, and you need to talk to so and so, and I met with so and so. Have you talked to this guy? Well, yeah, I'm about to talk to him. But we have such different
Yeah.
backgrounds,
Mhm.
right? That the only place, or the main place, I think people with different backgrounds really intersect together is when they come to serve,
Mhm.
right? Because as a petroleum engineer or whatever, I'm not running in those circles,
Mhm.
right? But I'm running in those circles now because we're volunteering together and we're showing up at the same places and we're putting our heads together and trying to think of how can we, in our different backgrounds and our different skill sets, help nonprofits and help people find the place for them to serve.
Right. Right. When I think about specifically my journey of serving, it wasn't something that was really modeled a lot for me growing up. Not that my parents didn't want to. My mom was single for a lot of years of our life and she worked her off to
Yeah.
feed us. And but I think about, it was time to go to college. And at that time, it was called the Abel Hanger Scholarship. Now it's called the Legacy Scholarship. But you had to volunteer. You had X amount of volunteer hours that you had to do to qualify for the scholarship. And that's really was my step into volunteering was I needed the scholarship. I wanted to go through nursing school at Midland College, and that I was either figure out how to pay for it or get this scholarship. And so I started serving, and I started serving in the special needs classrooms. I was a half a day senior, served in the special needs classrooms at Greenwood, and that's how I got my hours. But just thinking that it was something almost selfish, if you will, or like I needed that to to get the scholarship. But really it was my leg in. It was that there was going back to businesses that allow their employees, even though that's still something in some ways that could be like, well, you only do it because of this, or you only do it because of that. But sometimes just allowing that little bit of space, then it helps someone to discover
Mm.
their passion for that. I went on from serving in special needs to get that scholarship to working as a nurse in special needs for a few years. I did special needs at Stonegate at our church for a long time. So just thinking about how it was that like one little spark, selfishly maybe even of something that I needed, but that has now been a the majority of my life in serving in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And so just I agree with Cindy. I love that you guys are modeling that. And but just thinking about not everyone maybe has had that model for them in their home or in their life. And that it just takes like just the step. Just take a step. Find that one thing that you can do. Maybe it's 1 hour, because 1 hour really does make a difference in the nonprofit world of what that gives of that value, or even the I don't have $200,000 to give or a plot of land to donate, but I can give $20, and that
Mhm.
$20 could still make a difference. So just it just made me I'm glad that y'all have done that your whole lives, but thinking of my personal journey, it was something that could have been viewed as like, you know, I served to get something, but it was really what sparked that journey for me.
So, what excites you about where we are right now? Because you think about the last few years of growth in Midland, of new families coming in from all over, serving this community, and I think ultimately, I believe that everybody wants to make a difference somewhere, and so it's really what excites you about maybe a new generation coming in
Mm.
of people that are, our average age right now is somewhere between 32, 35. I don't know. The
Fluctuates.
years go by so fast. I'm like, I don't know. I think at one point it was 32. Now I'm like, okay, surely those people are 34, 35 now. But how do you feel like it's important to continue that message to the next generation that's coming into Midland and encouraging them to give back?
It's a great question because I'm around that average age myself. And I don't know if I think like the average 32-year-old, but what gives me that dopamine rush, I'll be honest, is connecting people to other people. Just knowing that I knew somebody just based on a conversation that I had with them or based on my working relationship with them that they could help serve a shelter, they could help tutor someone who's failing physics or who's failing math.
Mm.
Just knowing that you are that person that is making the difference gives me that dopamine rush or gives me, and it's not for selfish reasons. It really is just seeing that you can make a difference just based on your existence or based on you
Mhm.
knowing people. You didn't have to invest thousands or millions of dollars for that to happen. What also excites me about the I guess your average age or the incoming families in Midland is the amount of talent that we have. There's a lot of companies that are recruiting people to come to Midland and to stay in Midland, to invest in Midland. And I know there's a lot of people that have their given gifts and given talents. And while charity does begin at home, if the an example of what a family could do if when the charity does begin at home is, well, if they're in the public education system, how can they give back to the education system using their talents, using their perspectives? Can they come into a classroom and share their experiences as an engineer, as a nurse, or as a community member? Can they connect them to other organizations that have more of a bandwidth to serve Midland. I just see there's endless opportunity. There's when you know that you have a lot of connections, or when you know that you can connect somebody to serve to serve another group of people, and you may not be the right person. Imagine how if someone were to write down 5 people that they know, and you ask 30 people about that. That's 150 people that and that's 150 different opportunities. That's
Mm.
150 hours, not just that 1 hour making a difference. I see it as I mean, I also have an MBA, so I think about economies of scale. So I think about the scalability of volunteering, the scalability of making a difference, the scalability of making an impact, and the fact that Midland is growing to the point where Summer Mummer's just making fun of how Midland is growing and there's way too many people coming. I just see that as an opportunity for people to give back to the community and connect other people to others.
Mm.
Yeah.
I had a mentor who told me, and I've always remembered it, and I want to model it for the younger generation. I'm probably the oldest one in the room right now.
Close.
Um, you you don't you don't fall in love with a place until you see it.
Mhm.
Mm.
And when I take that into volunteering, it's like where do I get my love? Where do I get my excitement? Oh, fostering, adoption, justice, reading, literacy, whatever it is, find where that place is, and then you can begin to fall in love with that, right? I think a lot of times younger generation, they're busy. They're way more busy than I ever was when I was in my 20s and 30s. They tend to be pulled in 1,000 different directions with social media, with all the things, work, starting a family, not starting a family, extracurricular activities, you know, they're pulled so many places. But I think for me, helping them, which I think every neighbor is brilliant at doing, is helping them really tap into where their heart is. Where is your love?
Mhm.
If you haven't found it, let's find it, and then you will love it when you get involved, when you see the the reaction, you see that you're helping a child, and I want to piggyback on something Yoshi said, from a believer and being in ministry for so long. I hear people say, well, I don't have a great testimony. I don't have the testimony where God rescued me from whatever and stuff. And so people here will say, oh, I don't have the money to give. I see the companies that write the big checks and they do the big splash. You know what? Those are important and people are been gifted to do that, but that's not really what Midland needs.
Mhm.
What Midland needs is the mom or dad, the teenager, the young adult who wants to sit down and mentor a young
Mhm.
student in the ISD.
Mhm.
Watch them grow from 6th grade to 12th grade, helping them find maybe a vocational trade that they want to get involved in, or where they want to go to college, or maybe the fact that they just don't have a dad that can show them how to do
Mhm.
general,
Yeah. Skills.
work and stuff, right? How to change a flat tire, how to change your oil. I want to be helping younger people in Midland find those types of things to do, right?
Mhm.
And when you do that, it does something to you when you see a response. And it doesn't have to be a big $100,000 check or whatever. It can just be, I'm doing this 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month, and I'm going to give my time. And time is money. We hear that all the time. Time is money. And I think we should change that.
Mhm.
That,
Yeah.
you know, time is precious, time is valuable, and how I'm spending that may not ever get a dime out of
Yeah.
it, but I'm spending it because you're going to make a difference.
Yeah. I think it's too when you think about the wealth that's here, and this isn't, eh, you know, people are given wealth um to be responsible for others, I think. I mean, I think that it's a place where you've been the Lord has allowed you to have money to grow in your skill set, but I think we have a responsibility,
Mm,
much like too much is given, much is required. And so
mhm,
whether that's financially, whether that's intelligence, whether that's giftings in a certain area, we all have a responsibility to give back in some way. And when I think about Midland, a lot of times when you think about the wealth aspect that's here, I mean, absolutely, it makes for great vacations. It makes for, you know, like productive lives, and
Mhm.
that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're working and providing for needs of literally all over the world, and that's a unique quality of Midland. But when you think about that, there is this component of giving and this money aspect. A lot of times it comes with heartache. It comes with emptiness.
Mhm.
Just because you have money doesn't mean that life is great.
Hmm.
And I think that when I think about giving in our community, I'm like, people are searching for fulfillment. People
Yes.
are searching for something that's deeper and something that money can't buy.
Mhm.
And it usually involves, in some capacity, or I've found that the greatest joy that I have is when I can invest
Hmm.
and connect other people and, um, you know, be a light and be who I'm supposed to be.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be something different. You're supposed to be something, and so it's just when I think about our community, you think about the wealth, but the wealth of the time and the energy and the talents that people have, that we have a responsibility, and honestly, we're going to get back sometimes more than we think we've given.
Mm.
If that makes sense. There's
As soon as you mentioned the word wealth, I was like, define wealth.
No,
Well, when you think
Everybody
about
has a different
worldwide, yeah,
definition of wealth.
yeah.
I really, I mean, whether you believe in karma of whether comes or what goes around comes around, I do think that however you give, no matter if it is something tangible, if it's money or if it's time, I do believe that it does come back, whether if it's through fulfillment or whether if
Mm.
there are other sources of
Mm.
physical or money wealth and multiply. I mean,
Yeah.
when I give to my church, for example, I always get I always get the people who thank me for saying, may you get something back in multiples
Mhm.
of that. So,
Mm.
but yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on your point about wealth not having to look like money. And I do think
Mhm.
it does come back.
Yeah.
It does come into
Yeah,
return.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm curious, for both of you being very involved in the community, and Yoshi, I've just recently met you, but I've seen some of your stuff in you're highly involved in the community. And Jay, you are like Genie, ping, ping, ping. You just everywhere. You're popping up, popping up. So, but being in the community, highly involved in the volunteer space, what do you feel like as a community that we are doing really well?
Mm.
What do you feel like may be broken that needs a little tweak? And what's missing?
Mm. Wow.
That is a really good question.
That's loaded.
Very loaded question. I mean, that might be a separate podcast episode, I think.
100%.
So, what I think the community does well is that they are good at there are 2,000 nonprofits in the Permian Basin. I think what we do well is identifying specific needs and
Mm.
having that intention to serve those needs. What I do think is broken, and I am a transparent person because I have spoken with numerous nonprofits, is developing the nonprofit story, coming up with some clarity on their story
Mhm.
in communicating with others of what are those needs, what are those gaps that are needed to be filled. I do think every neighbor has done a wonderful job in bridging those gaps in terms of identifying needs of partnering organizations and connecting those with other people who can fulfill those needs. But it is up to the nonprofit to provide that clarity and their own messaging. So, what I do think is missing, I'm not saying, oh, we'll do the 2001st nonprofit, but what I do think is an entity of that can help with the branding, that can help with the messaging, that can help with getting the word out there, that can help with developing that structure for that particular nonprofit to where they all, I mean, if you see if you see a map of how the earth looks like when it's dark, and if it were nonprofits only, I want Midland to be the largest dot on there with so much light because of so many resources that the nonprofit's been able to make use of, been leveraged just because they've been able to tell their story well.
Mm.
I
That's
love
good.
that.
I love that.
Leslie, you're very kind with your words you said about me pinging around. Um, we've had this conversation
Yes.
quite a bit, and I think what Midland does well is they care,
Mm-hmm.
but what they do wrong or bad or need help is that they care
Mm.
and they don't know where to put that energy,
Mhm.
right? It's like, how many times have we visited with people and we're like, I'm trying to raise money, I'm trying to get programs off the ground, but nobody knows who you are. But I'm trying to raise my money, I'm trying to do my programs, but nobody knows who we are. Well, if ideas that Yoshi and I and others, every neighbor can have that can help them tell their story, as she said, I'm a firm believer that nonprofits would never have to ask for another dime
Yeah.
Mhm.
because everybody would know who they are and what their needs are.
Yeah.
And they would be calling them saying, do you need more?
Yeah.
What can I do more? Now, people that I talk to are like, I never heard of them. I don't even know what they do.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a lean toward competition
Mhm.
with nonprofits. You know, there's could be 10 people that are treating homeless or whatever. It's like, should we not collaborate together? Should we aren't we supposed to be
Mhm.
working toward this? I would love to see that narrative begin to shift even more. I think it's gotten better in the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
but I do still see, and I serve on boards and I'm in the community and popping around everywhere, and I still see it's like, leave those people alone. Those are my donors. No, they're
Yeah.
really not. I would like to see that all shift.
I think that comes from that scarcity mindset. There's not
Mm.
enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's a trap because honestly, if all of us are using the gifts and talents that we've been given, we have eyes to see where those needs are, and then we're empowering other people to do it. I I think there's more than enough. And
Mhm.
so maybe people think I'm Pollyanna. I don't know, too naive. I don't know, but I'm like I truly believe in people.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of experiences where, you know, eh, people let us down sometimes. People, um, so not to say that it's going to be perfect, but if we're willing to get in the messiness of
Mhm.
everyday life and the stories of people and help them where they are, I think Midland has a bright future,
Yeah.
and the Permian has a bright future. Odessa has a bright future. You know, I mean, I'm not partial to Midland, but I mean, that's where I've been, but I think it speaks to our region, the
Mm.
people that are here, and we are an independent spirit. We're 5 hours from anything,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
we have to work together to develop and make us a stronger community, and so, um, I love that you've shared your stories. I feel like we probably could do another podcast or talk another,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
length of time. But we have a little kind of surprise impromptu for you.
Ooh.
I am a quote person. I love quotes, and I on the back of my wall in my office, I have this huge like 3x3, 4x4. I don't know. It's just got all these random quotes on it, and so we put together. Leslie did a great job of putting those all on paper. And we're going to ask you to read a quote. Just pull one out of the bag and just respond to it.
It's like a fortune cookie.
I'm looking at it in shock because this is very reassuring for the things that are happening in my life right now.
Hmm.
Walk away from things not meant for you.
Mm.
Whoa, I'm glad I didn't get that one.
I used to do public speaking in college, so there was an event called Impromptu,
Mm.
and we would talk about the quotation, we would talk about the author of the quotation, the intent, and I'm not going to give a 7-minute spiel on it,
No, you're good.
but the quotation is really talking about purpose and alignment with a purpose with what you're doing to your day-to-day job. Some of the things that I wanted to mention when we were talking about wealth is that, I mean, when the Lord takes us to where however long we have time in this world, we don't take these tangible things with us. but what we do leave is that impact.
Mm.
So then that question becomes, where do you want to leave that impact? And if it's not meant to be aligned with your purpose and your values or your calling, then you walk away from those things that are not meant for you.
Mhm.
And that was a thing that I've had many conversations with my husband about this as I've come to this realization. When I was 25, hustling in the industry, I had a mentor that came up to me and asked me, "Who's going to show up at your funeral? What are they going to write on your tombstone?" They're not going to It's not going to be super volunteer, it's going to be wife, it's going to be mother. It's going to be a follower of the Lord.
Mhm.
It's one of those things. So um, I really have decoupled myself from from anything tangible, really. And I've started truly figuring out, like, where do I want to invest my time in? And if it's not meant for me, I've done a better job at walking away.
Mm.
Mm.
That.
So
Thank
good.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm
Jay,
put-
follow
you
that
be
up.
putting mine back
Yeah.
and choosing a different one.
Yours may be a totally different
Yeah.
thing.
It is totally different, and I
Okay.
really am I'm usually not at loss for words, but I am
You're
on
at
this one.
loss for words.
You
Yeah.
are?
Jay,
This one says, and I heard what you were saying, but I was also thinking, how am I going to
Yeah.
answer mine? Mine's pick your battles.
mm,
So there you go.
pick your battles.
Pick your battles. I'm going to go a little philosophical, maybe,
Okay.
than more volunteering
That's great.
and stuff. I think when I think pick battles, I have to figure out what battle I'm fighting internally,
Mm.
right? Because I struggle with approval.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I've grown up with my entire life. It's a sickness. It's a disease. It's something that I can't get rid of. It's just I will do, and I have to do. Actually, this will work. This will be good. I have to fight not wanting to serve so that I get approval,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? And that has stuck with me for a long time. Um, Corey Butler, who's a good friend of mine, taught me this. He said, wherever your foot falls, that's where your mission is.
Mm.
Mm.
So if you are a stay-at-home mom, you're an engineer, you're a fry cook, you're a teacher at sixth grade, whatever it is, wherever your foot lands, that's where I think you're called to serve.
Mm.
Mm.
And that's a battle that I have to fight.
Mm. I love that. Thanks for, yeah, because it's a challenge. I mean,
That's fun. Can we do some more?
Yeah.
I would love it. Next podcast, we'll just
Yeah.
do.
Just keep doing
Let's do a podcast just of answers.
Just
I
on
know,
this.
I know.
Shotgun.
Right, shotgun.
Draw.
It has been fun because I feel like every time it's very weird how some of those ones come out that are very
Yeah.
timely to the conversation. And you're
Correct.
like,
That's
okay, that's
great.
pretty cool. And so it's been fun. Thank you so much um for sharing your stories, sharing a little bit of your backgrounds and your love for Midland. I mean, it's obvious, and the region. And thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the support. I know that whether you're serving on boards, you're volunteering, whatever that looks like, you're donating items, money. Thank you for the investment back into people and to our community. And we truly, we love just hearing people's stories and knowing more how we can inspire other people.
Mm.
And so thanks for being a part of that.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. I'm a big advocate for every neighbor.
I know
We need
we
you.
say that we have a few people that are the best employees that really aren't
Non-paid.
non-paid employees.
I'm the only employee.
And,
I lose every month to Jay and Christine Bessie. Those are the two.
That's right. But you get paid.
Yeah.
Jay
I'm getting
actually-
y'all's paycheck. You're welcome.
he wouldn't wear his hat today because he said it was dirty. So he has an
I'm
every
on
neighbor.
my second, almost third hat of
Yeah,
every neighbor. Yeah.
So we've got a good one in the works
And
for
I,
you.
because I'm losing my hair up there, this is a great billboard.
Okay.
So for
that's
anyone listening who wants free advertisement, I don't
Get
go
you a
anywhere
hat.
without a hat on.
Yeah,
So
Get Jay a hat.
absolutely.
people will remember
Yeah.
what I'm wearing.
That's right. All right.
Thank you for having us
Thank you
on.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.